it is time to take stock of how far we have come over the last 10 years of devolution. It is also an opportunity for us to raise the agenda for the next government. The different parties, political parties, are all going to be preparing their own manifestos. And we would want the Kenyans, to assess the extent to which all of these parties are going to address their issues, particularly to do with what we need to do for the agriculture sector. I think we have all agreed that minor surgeries will not take us there. It is going to be a major transformation. And what we as Council of Governors are willing to do is to contribute to the development of the manifesto that ensures that there is major transformation of agriculture sector in this country over the next 5 years when the new government takes over. So on behalf of the chair, I want to thank you, I want to welcome you, and now let me take this opportunity to welcome our Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Munya, to come and make his remarks, and then we proceed from there. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, my co-chair of JASCOM, Governor Dr. Nyoro, Governor of the County of Kiambu, for those very, very pertinent remarks that capture the common spirit and thinking in terms of where we want to go in agriculture. His fellow colleagues, governors who are here, seeing Governor Rasanga, seeing Governor Kaemba, and Governor Kaia, and of course the deputies who are representing other governors in this forum, principal secretaries who are with us today, CAS, from my ministry and others representing other ministries, county executive committee members present, development partners, heavily represented by their chair, E-Fund, without, of course, forgetting a special mention for Kala, who serve you as arrived to the forum personally, and other development partners who are here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Karibuni, and thank you all for taking time to attend the 4th Intergovernmental Forum for Agriculture. This is our milestone as we look back at the achievements in the sector over the past 2 years, anchored on the Big Four agenda on food security and driven by the agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy. Although the agricultural sector is not unique in the context of devolution, we are unique in ensuring our continued collaboration. And I am pleased to share my views on where we are as a country in attaining food security and enhancing collaboration between the two levels of government. As I was preparing for this forum, I reflected on my own journey and calling as a public servant. From my tenure in the National Assembly, later as governor of my home county of Meru and chairman of the Council of Governors, and now as a cabinet secretary is this critical ministry. This personal journey of service has greatly broadened my understanding of the agricultural sector, and in particular the smallholder farmer in crops, livestock, and fisheries, their challenges and their expectations. We can all agree that an improved quality of life through agriculture is their common goal. And for consumers, the expectation that food continues to be available, accessible, and affordable. As the leadership in this sector, guided by our Constitution, we are tasked with helping achieve all of this through collaborative engagement at the two levels of government, the counties and the national government. This journey has informed my push for reforms in the first 2 years, which have under Mukulima at the center of the reform agenda. Looking at the participation here present, there is no better platform to take stock of and review what has been accomplished and what needs to be done for the transformation of the agricultural sector. We must resolve persistent governance issues, widen stakeholder participation, and commit to implementation of policies that have a genuine direct impact on our agricultural producers, the farmers. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's forum also provides us with an opportunity to reflect on the first IGFAs from 2014 to 2018, where the objectives were to engage the national and county government to adopt, develop, and deepen modalities for a harmonized and well-coordinated agricultural sector for economic prosperity in the country by delivering as one. The last IGFA, held in July 2019, set out 15 resolutions centered around increased coordination of policies to well-resourced implementation. This committed county governments to strengthening extension services and tasked the ministers to ensure continued consultation with county government and other stakeholders on frameworks and policies, as well as continual resource mobilization and investment, management of transboundary pest diseases and climate risks, review of policies and regulations to ensure compliance with the Constitution, increase the inclusion of youth, and strengthen research and innovation to support the sector. These resolutions will be presented to you, as well as a comprehensive review on how all efforts have been made in meeting these resolutions, and of course, what remains to be done. I believe we have made great strides in many of the resolutions, such as implementing the coordination mechanism, where we launched the ASTGS, along with the Agricultural Transformation Office, for my office to support the coordination mechanism required. And we went ahead and gazetted the Joint Agricultural Sector Steering Committee, JASCOM, in November 2021, whose main task is to strengthen collaboration among all actors. This is a coordination mechanism envisioned in the Constitution of 2010, whose implementation will further clarify the delineated mandates of the two levels of government for increased effectiveness in our work in the sector. That said, we still have some distance to go to reach our targets, and we must reaffirm our commitment to the sector at this fourth IGFA. Ladies and gentlemen, though this forum comes at a time when the sector has grappled with the death and locust invasion, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the current drought, it is also when Africa and the world has asserted its vision for sustainable food systems through appropriate and timely interventions. Kenya's participation in the ANGRF summit, which we hosted, that is the UN Food System Summit and the UN Climate Change Conference, COP26, demonstrated our commitment to sustainable food systems from the dialogues held at national and county and regional levels. All these summits and activities have enriched our thinking on how to move the sector forward. And I encourage us all to embrace the outcomes to assist in our deliberations and interventions. As we take stock of where we are and how we've fared in intergovernmental collaboration in agriculture, we must take cognizance of the cross-cutting issues, particularly climate change, youth and gender, and funding and investment, which have significant effects on agricultural development. For the first 2 years, the activities we have undertaken have been guided by the agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy with the goal of creating a vibrant, commercial, and modern agricultural sector that supports 100% food security. The ASTGS provided the framework for the ministry's ability to enact the Big Four agenda commitment on food security. The reforms have been spearheading also speak to the Big Four agenda. Land, IGFA resolutions, and the ASTGS as they aim to take back the gains in the sector to its rightful owner, the smallholder producer, so that he gets a fair share of his toil. It is a fact that we will not meet our national goals if the farmer is not enabled to grow. It must be noted that these legislative reforms were undertaken within the constitutional framework, jointly with counties and stakeholders from the public. It behoves us all to clarify any misunderstandings of the mandates of the two levels of government and encourage more sensitization and increase capacity building to shed more light for better understanding as we work towards increased synergies in the activities of government. This is a journey that we must work together to continue improving our collaboration and giving value to the stakeholders that we serve in this sector. Ladies and gentlemen, some of the notable gains we made thus far include the rollout of one of our core digital innovations, the electronic voucher, dubbed the e-voucher. These include the IFAD-supported KSEP CRAR, the World Bank-supported National Value Chain Support Program, and the FAO-supported KIAMIS, all of which have targeted most of the counties. These programs have transformed the way government subsidies are distributed and have made visible positive impact in the local communities. Plans are now underway to institutionalize the e-voucher subsidy program and target the entire country, all the 47 counties. And I look forward to your support during the planned consultations with counties on the rollout of this very, very important innovation that is supporting farmers' access to affordable inputs and also supporting the challenges we've been experiencing on monitoring and evaluation and also gathering of data to inform the agricultural transformation that we are undertaking. Other notable gains are the investments the ministry has made in data and digital technologies to increase productivity and provide access to services and markets in the agricultural sector. We believe these digital platforms are transformative and shall continue to support their scale-up. The ministry has also recently introduced a new Directorate of Research and Innovation to help develop a vibrant, coordinated, and innovative agricultural research system. We also initiated the strategic food reserve reforms so that we can better address the needs of food insecure Kenyans through a digital food balance sheet and the current ongoing review of the National Agricultural Sector Extension Policy, which seeks to reactivate the farmer extension linkage in the devolved ecosystem, whilst including digital technology to enable wider reach and allow for knowledge sharing with private sector players as well. Effective deployment of these digital and data platforms and the transformation outlined in the reforms require the right institutional architecture and capacities at both levels of government. Thus, in collaboration with the Council of Governors and through the SWAG on capacity building, supported by AGRA, we have developed the 5-year agricultural sector institutional capacity strengthening plan, which provides a framework for addressing the capacity challenges hindering the sector's development and transformation. From the third IGFA, one of the resolutions was that of rolling out a youth strategy. And I am pleased to inform you that the journey has begun in earnest. I wish to thank His Excellency the President for his keen interests in the youth agricultural agenda. With his support, we have reactivated and rebranded the 4K clubs. Further collaboration between the two levels of government has facilitated the implementation of the Enable Youth program for investment in youth-led agribusiness. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm also pleased to report that as we resolved in the IGFA 3, the policy and regulatory reforms have all been undertaken in collaboration with counties and the public. This has been done through our 5-step approach to policy development, where the sector working group on policy legislation and standard, co-chaired by members from the two levels of government, has ensured that county and regional consultations remain the mainstay of the process for mutual acceptance and accountability. Illustrating that this cannot be done if the county and national governments are working at cross purposes. Thus, we must continue to forge productive collaboration mechanisms to ensure success for our sector. Ladies and gentlemen, all this would not have been possible without the catalytic support of our development partners. The various initiatives and programs supported demonstrated robust collaboration at work in support of the smallholder and value chain actors in the sector. We value your partnership, and on behalf of the two levels of government, I thank you for your support. As we deliberate and craft resolutions in this 4th IGFA in the next 2 days, I would like to pose the following questions. How can we review our approach to reflect the current realities in the region in view of the COVID-19 pandemic and lessons learned? 2, how can we ensure administrative continuity to build on the gains of the first 4 years to the next level in the transformation of the agricultural sector, especially looking at the transition now we are almost entering. There is that need of continuity, even as we accelerate some of the things that we must accelerate. 3, how can we strengthen our collaboration further? And what needs to be done at systems level to institutionalize organs or mechanisms formed so that we leave no one behind, or of course ensure inclusivity and participation of all actors, both levels of government and of course the private sector. I think even Governor Nyoro talked about this very well. We already moved a step forward in setting the JASCOM framework of collaboration, institutionalizing it. I remember the biggest problem at the beginning when we started this coordination mechanism and collaboration mechanism was there was no legal backing. So, and because there was no legal backing, there was also no way even resources could be channeled. So we continued relying on departments. If donors want to support, they have support through departments. And it becomes very difficult because some of these programs are cross-cutting. So you have an accounting officer somewhere who has nothing to do with one of the issues that you are dealing with. So this mechanism, even so yet gazetted, we really have to rethink it, and of course also include what Governor Nyoro talked about, the need to put donors to be part of it, development partners to be part of it, and of course the private sector. And also improve even our own collaboration at the national level. Because sometimes we only talk about the two levels of government. But my experience at the national level, actually, the most difficult bit is coordination at the national level. Sometimes you don't even know what your counterpart is doing. Or what you are doing, they don't know. And yet, results can only effectively be gotten if you are working together. So the silo mentality, you know, sometimes county government thinks it is a deliberate effort by national government. No. It is the way we've been brought up and socialized, that you protect your turf. Somebody else protects theirs. Somebody else protects theirs. And then you are very, very well entrenched silos. So we are carrying out an irrigation program, especially now that irrigation is no longer in agriculture. You have to make a big effort to know what it is and where it is and what it is. And then when it is done, you are supposed to hand over to the farmers and the national government and the county to run it. Sometimes it doesn't happen because that collaboration is not there. So the improvement in terms of coordination and collaboration is bigger, is wider. It's not just, you know, at the local level. Even though the NDICC and the NDITC have erupted, they have erupted in terms of improving collaboration and coordination. But they are also a bit too mechanical because you go discussing programs. So the programs are already developed. There is no overarching framework that informs those programs. And this is what Governor Nyoro was saying, we really need a complete restructuring to help accelerate the transformation that's taking place in agriculture. Even as we say things, we are not saying we haven't done much. We have really moved in this sector. We have really moved. But for us to deal with the challenges that are still persisting, we need a proper restructuring. But given the journey and where we come from and all this, we really, this current administration has made a big stride in terms of putting in the infrastructure, in terms of the thinking, but we have to improve on the coordination and the collaboration at the national level and also the horizontal one between the national and the county and the private sector and the farmers. And I would also want to encourage the private sector to be also more collaborative, because there is a tendency to craft a private sector up here. We say private sector. But the farmers are nowhere. And then we talk about them. We don't even know. There are real challenges down there. So the collaboration and the inclusion is not just government. It is even private sector. I am sorry to say it, but I've seen it. We meet in Nairobi at the national level and say this is now private sector representation for agriculture. Really? It's okay, but why don't you become more inclusive? Since farmers are also organized, when you are coming to bring proposals to government, why can't you also make sure at least issues, the burning issues that are affecting the farmers are also included in your proposal so that you don't become narrow and you become removed from the reality of what is happening in the agricultural sector. So you can see we have quite some long way to go in terms of really giving effect to what we are calling inclusion and collaboration. It has to be a very well deliberately done policy overarching thought out clearly that must also avoid capture, because we also talk about capture as if capture is only government. Capture can even be cartels. Cartels in the agricultural sector especially are so entrenched, and they pose as good. They always come out as they are well-meaning. They want to do this and this. In the end, they end up also becoming the ones stifling what we mean, stifling the transformation of the sector and making the sector very uncompetitive. So even as we argue and try to agree on what our both levels of mandate are, which is important because all of us have to play our role, we must also be clear on how to collaborate to deal with those entrenched challenges, entrenched governance challenges that are made it very difficult for the agricultural sector to transform. And Governor, this is one of the issues we have in the tea sector, in the coffee sector. This is what killed the pyrethrum sector that is now we are trying to revive. So there is absolutely no problem in all of us knowing what our role is, and each one keeping to his role. But we even must go further and say, where are we collaborating and how do we collaborate? Because these roles are connected. There is no way you play yours independently, I play mine independently, and things work. If you are farming down there, I have to support you in making sure that the markets are available, because markets are not confined only in your county. So even as you connect with the other governors, the national coordination role must also be there to make sure that people access market, people also access regional and international markets. Without that, collaboration becomes very difficult. So I am not questioning anything, I'm just agreeing with you entirely, but saying, let's give a lot of thinking and a lot of innovation in terms of the collaboration. That is so critical. Otherwise, instead of this sector transforming for the benefit of all the stakeholders, it becomes very uncompetitive because of the things we load on it, how we slow it down, and then, of course, whenever there is space, other players come in and occupy that space. So in summary and in conclusion, may I also point out some of the key challenges, critical challenges we need to deal with, all of us. Most of them are cross-cutting, and they have already been mentioned. Some have been mentioned. Others are emerged. Of course, we've already talked about climate change. This one, we got to know, we got to really think critically on what we are going to do, especially given the fact that our agriculture is still very fragile, it is still undeveloped, the players are small players. So if they are not supported in dealing with the vagaries that are brought by climate change, the unpredictable weather, disasters that come associated with those changes become critical. So this is something that we really, either is a swag, we require that go and think clearly, even as counties think in their own way what they need to do. Then what we need to do, what is the overarching framework that will help counties do targeted interventions and mitigation measure. We need to do that, think clearly. I just give an example of what we are doing in the fish landing sites. Are very easy examples. Fish landing sites that we're trying to develop in the lake region. We didn't think about climate change and the floods that came, so they were all submerged. And we had done a lot of investment everywhere. We thought now the fishery sector is going to change. There's more older fishermen who now have places, clean places, you stand down to land their fish. Did that happen? Now we have structures that are submerged in water, that are of no value to anybody, and all that money is lost. So we need to think about what to do. And of course, these droughts that are now becoming endemic, they are all over every day, and and the need to also work with our livestock keepers to also change mindset, so that they don't have to keep all the cows you walk. Oh, keep them. They are not making any money for you. You are just keeping them. Then droughts come, wipe them. The transformation that is required in that sector, and I'm just giving those two examples because these are persistent examples. The one of landing sites is a recent one, but the one on drought, cyclic droughts that come, wipe out livestock, then we start thinking about how do we restock. If our interventions were properly targeted and the farmers and the collaboration was done properly, we would save some of it and have something to of course reinvest when the droughts are over, and also of course provision of the feed and the water during that time, so that we don't have to rely on the rain to provide feed to our animals. I've seen countries where they have drought for 5 years and they have planned for them because they have studied the cyclic nature of the drought. They are able to provide the feed, and therefore they are able to keep the wealth and the livelihoods that are supported in that sector. The other challenge we want to deal with, and again we can only deal with collaborating together, all of us, is the problem of quality fertilizers, its availability, affordability, and also animal feeds. Those two, because they are also interconnected, animal feed and fertilizer. We must again clearly think about it, come up with the solutions. Not now we are implementing short term, but we need to look at long-term solutions that are sustainable. Like now, the cost of fertilizer has doubled. So all the gains we have made in terms of providing support to farmers are going to be deleted by the cost of inputs. It's something we must, again, together. This forum, adopt solutions, and not just adopt them, adopt and go and work on them to make sure that we have a plan on what we need to do. Of course, youth and agriculture is something that was already there. We started the work. We haven't gone very far, but we need to take it as an emergency. You always say our agriculture is retiring, because if all the farmers retire, then who is left to feed us? And our young people are not interested, because the way we do agriculture, they think it is the way we do it. We not adopt technology, we don't make it attractive. It is also not well paying. So all those challenges that are involved in making young people attracted to agriculture and looking at agriculture as business, all those things we need to address them. The issue of extension services, we've been discussing it forever. We even worked out a mechanism on how we can restructure the support from development partners and set up a committee. It has never reported. Why? He sat there and said, yes, extension is critical. It is an devolved function, but we need a framework to support counties deal with it. We said we needed to adopt technology to reduce the need for human beings. We also said we need to deploy private sector, because private sector has an interest. We did not set up a committee. I've been asking, when is this committee reporting? And this committee and everybody, including development partners who are friends here, but maybe they are not the problem, because sisi ndio watu. Si shinda iko wapi? The issue of data and digitization, the issue of adoption of technology, we've done made a lot of progress. But until we are clear on the entire framework and the linkages, who does what, we still have a long way to go. I know, for example, if the big data platform already with Caro, But we said we needed to see how KIAMIS feed into it, how the various other digital frameworks we have developed, how they feed into it, how data is collected at the county level, how we build capacity at the county level to have county units that are properly trained and capacitated to collect the data. Again, we haven't done progress. As we've done quite some progress here, but we need to deal with those gaps. And this will make auto monitoring and evaluation easier, because monitoring and evaluation without technology, how do we deal with it? It will also be easy to make us get feedback, to know gaps, to know where we need to improve, to know where we are failing. These again, kindly, can we give it in these discussions that we are going to do now, the justice and the speed and the time required. We have talked a long time, and this is an overarching issue of the competitiveness of our sector in relation to our neighbors, to other countries. Without dealing with this, and many of those other issues we have mentioned contribute to uncompetitiveness. That is why imports, as Governor Nyoro said, we keep importing now basic things that we can produce here. We are even importing potatoes. Even though we have come up with a plan on how to grow those particular varieties that KFC requires, and thanks to IFAND who are supporting us to start growing more varieties and ensure we have varieties that please the palate of those who are interested in KFC. KFC type of chips or French fries. I don't mind those other varieties. My palate is quite rich. I'm able to appreciate all those other varieties. But we've actually agreed with KFC to work together. They have identified the people they want to work with to start rolling out that particular variety they require, and they have partners who want to do it the way they want it done. And I think there is already a team working on that rollout to start doing that. But it's also important for people to know that potatoes that are made into chips is only 5%. 5%. 95% of potatoes are eaten in other ways. Mokimo, roasted, tumbukiza, which I like when you put some meat in it and some cabbages. You produce very rich, tasty. But because, of course, of the kind of social status of the people who eat that particular one, it attracted a lot of media. It became like we are in a crisis in the potato subsector. The real crisis in the potato subsector is supporting farmers to grow, supporting them to deal with the post-harvest losses, and ensuring they reach the market. And of course, the post-harvest losses is where the middlemen come to exploit them. When there is overproduction, there is a lot of production, farmers can't, because potato is very perishable, can't be able to preserve, because we don't have coolers enough to be able to keep the potatoes there. And then sometimes the quality of the seeds, major issue, and also the type that they grow that perish very quickly. Those are, in that program I talked about, we are working with IFAND, we are dealing with those challenges also, so that we don't look at potato as issue of that's more percent that is imported by KFC, even as we want, of course, to reduce imports. So there is that problem of competitiveness of the sector generally that we must address, and the wastefulness in the sector because of failure to adopt technologies to help store, deal with process losses, standards, access to market, and all those. Those are issues we must work together to deal with. Other issues, of course, some of them may be sectoral, subsectoral. The issue of governance in our cooperatives. Because our smallholder farmer has to rely on the cooperative or the association to aggregate and to access market. Opportunities there now for those who manage those organizations to exploit the farmer, misuse the farmer, sit there and try to make money and try to make excess money from the farmer. That's an area we must work together, Governor Nyoro. And we haven't. When we try at the national level to do something, you blame us. But we do it because pressure comes to us. Pressure comes to us that there is a problem in Morogwe Cooperative Society in Embu, where our farmers have been given a loan of 60 million. Their coffee production cannot support a loan of 60 million. So every coffee they grow now goes to service a loan that they didn't even know what that loan did from our investigations. So governance challenges at the cooperative level, how do we deal with it? I'm happy we've been able to do the bill collaboratively. It has gone through all the stages. I know part of the problem has been that gap. When the Constitution came, no legislations were made to make it clear who does what. That is a gap that has been taken advantage of to completely deal with, make it very difficult for producer cooperative society. In the Lake region and Western Area, I don't even want to talk, the ones of fish collapsed a long time ago. Got to us start how to revive them, because again, smallholder farmer will not survive without those organizations that help them. So the issue of good governance and the collaboration on dealing with them is a big issue. We went into creating tribunals. We have the cooperative tribunal that is supposed to deal. So everybody goes to court there to stop. Not to deal with it, to stop you from intervening. The cartel take advantage of that mechanism. We need to see how to improve it. Poorly funded. I sympathize with the tribunal because they come to me to ask, even they don't even have a vehicle. And they are supposed to go everywhere listening to cooperative cases. They don't have a vehicle, they don't have a budget. They are not under our ministry, they are in the judiciary. Again, a big mistake why we moved the tribunals. Tribunals were administrative stopgaps before you go into real court, were moved to the judiciary. So our challenges are quite big. They are not, sometimes we scratch the surface when we are addressing them. If they tell you their stories, you'll be surprised. Anyway, that's another issue we need to deal with. The issue of standards and certification, especially for our exports and the facilities that are required. The livestock sector is picking, and the exports are also picking now. We need to move again collaboratively together to see how to quickly and affordably set up quarantine facilities and certification to meet those export markets that are required. We are already moving, we have moved, we have done some work, but we need to accelerate, even around our railway. What do we do with it to see how we can set up facilities around the railway so that we can give value to export of our livestock. The issue of vaccines. This is a big, big problem, Governor. I don't know whether you know that. Issue of vaccines. Major issue. I remember even in the last meeting we discussed it again. To deal with these transboundary diseases that are very persistent, that keep changing, we don't have a framework. Kevevapi sells to you. Sometimes you don't pay them in time. What they produce is perishable. So sometimes it is before you even access, the vaccine is spoiled. So we have challenges of being able to have them when we need them, and the payment for them and all that. That needs to be streamlined. And then the issue of some counties vaccinating, others not vaccinating. without reaching the levels of vaccination we require. There is no value in one county doing it, the next one doesn't do, because the animals keep moving to markets, they interact, especially in those northern areas where animals keep moving, the northern belt. But even where it doesn't move, this is your neighbor has it, it will move by hair, it will be there in the market, when you are milking and mixing them, it will be there. So this is a major issue. Can we deal with it here and come up with a plan on how to deal with it? At least capture it and see how we work on it. The issue of AI services. AI services. Kagrik and even NDC are producing quality. I was the other day launching the Animal Genetics Center in NDC, and I was impressed by the quality of the bulls there and the way they're handling semen and the science behind it. They are excellent work. They sell at 200. When it goes to a market, it becomes 3,000, 6,000. We have to manage costs so that we bring the AI services down, so that more farmers can access. Because farmers are still keeping bulls, like in Kakamega, and you keeping bulls, not just for the game, but even and you know the dangers of having bulls, each one running his own bull, and the problem of genetics that come with inbreeding that must be managed at this level. So this is another issue we need to address together. I want to thank the counties that have been buying. Actually, there are counties that I wish I had come with the list to at least encourage them. I don't remember. Kisumu, for example, I was told they buy their AI product directly from ADC. And because of that, if you buy it directly, it's paying at 200. You buy at 200, you can imagine the cost of access to your farmers directly, very cheap. Even if you tell them to pay, if they paid another 200 shillings, can't you see you have brought down the cost without actually necessarily investing in anything? You are bought at the cost level, you've returned your money. Even if you sold at 500, you return the money you are spending, but the farmers access at a very affordable price. So this is another area we really have to work together and deal with it. I have already alluded to management, transboundary diseases, issues of pest control. We've done very well with the locust, I don't know what to call it. We've done extremely well, and we want to thank our development partners, especially FAO, for the support, the capacity building, the collaboration we did between ourselves and counties in controlling the locust problem. We are now properly equipped, properly trained capacity to deal with it if it ever recurs. And we can also be able to replicate this in dealing with other pests. But we are saying we need to collaborate, especially for livestock, more than we are doing. For the livestock diseases that are also transboundary, we need to do more. The issue of the health and the quality of our soils. Governor Kaemba talks about that every day. And it is a real problem. It doesn't talk about it for no reason. It's because our productivity will never increase if we don't make sure that our soils are also healthy. We've been utilizing fertilizers that poison our soils, driven by more of people selling. Sell. We want to sell. This is something you must address. This is something that is extremely urgent, that must be addressed, and I think it's adopted here. And it's not difficult. I'm sure if Kaemba has an opportunity to speak, I specifically asked if he is coming, because I wanted him to deal with that particular subject and deal with it effectively. So I want to leave that to him, but we need to capture that and so we deal with it. The issue of critical value chains, that we must agree, even as counties themselves pick what they think is important for them, we must also look at the overarching. If you are dealing with food security, we must look at the bigger picture also. What are the extremely important value chains for our food? What are the most important value chains for exports? Given the fact that we have a big challenge with imports, our Kenya shilling is under pressure every day because we are importing, increasingly importing, not exporting. Then what we are exporting, even as we do with the issue of manufacturing, the bigger manufacturing. But the easiest lower-lying fruit is export of agro-processed products. That's why our strength is. So what kind of money do we need to put here in that, deal with that? How then do we support counties to grow those value chains, particular value chains, so that we increase our production, increase the quality, and then work with them for exports and also for our food security. I want to end there and thank you once more for coming to this forum that has come quite late in the day, but it is because of the challenges we have been having. COVID could not allow us to meet, then many other interventions, many other meetings, until we agreed, can we just have it in January? But I want to join Nyoro in saying, beyond this structured meeting, we require a national conference on agriculture. Agriculture has not been given the attention it deserves. We keep saying it is the backbone of our economy, it is this and the other, but if you look at the resources we spend in doing other peripheral, sometimes because other people think those are important. So you end up to what other people think. But ourselves, if we say it's the backbone, most of our people live off agriculture. Then why are we so slow and not very in a hurry to put in resources there to transform this sector? We've been told by other countries, we interact with them every day, they tell us, without transforming your agriculture, forget about those other sectors. It is the engine, it is the driver. It is the driver. That's all, even China, they started with the agriculture transformation. Everybody starts with agriculture transformation. Once you are there, it will give the jobs required, it will give to grow the GDP, it will give you consumer, people who are resourced with money who can buy those other things. Purchasing power from the population. So any transformation must start there. So even when you are looking at business, yes, own business fine, but agri-business is critical. After all, that is also what we are used to. Kila watu wengi kule nyumbani in the villages. Growing things is easy. So how do you support them to grow and do all those things that so agribusiness that is also linked with agriculture. I'm not saying this because we haven't done much. We have. We have moved. We want to thank the president for giving agriculture attention. He's always there looking at agriculture. But you see, it's not just the president or the minister. It has to be a whole country change. All of us agreeing this is where we want to go, this is where we want to start, then we are able to pull together. Then that will really change the country. Thank you very much.
Asante sana CS and also co-chair of IGFA for those very insightful remarks. And Waziri, I want to assure you that as your counterparts in the counties, the CCs, we have enjoyed a very cordial relationship with your staff. Many other times we call the CS, the CAS, the two PSs here, and I really want to appreciate Harry Kimtai and Professor Boga here. Whenever we call them, whenever we WhatsApp them, they have employed an open door policy. So there has been active consultation, and whenever we are in doubt, we always consult. And of course, also due to the goodwill that has been cultivated between the two levels of government, the SWAGs have been very active. And there are lots of documents that have passed through the SWAG. You realize the SWAG is a representation of both levels of government. And these documents are at various stages, but there has been a lot of goodwill that has been demonstrated. And I believe what has come through the SWAG, the JASCOM is going to take it up so that we can make sure that whatever has been discussed is taken to the next level. I also want to note that the CS has started this year, he has hit the ground running. And just last week, he launched the National Warehouse Receipt System and a sector of excellence for genetic, animal genetics, livestock genetic center. His Excellency, my governor, was hosted him in Trans Nzoia County last week, and many other places that he has visited. He must be the most active CS. So we are lucky to have you, and we like the speed at which you are trying to move the things in the sector. Now, in the interest of time, we are going to have 2 short presentations. There is one from IGRTC, and I hope it is ready. And we are going to have one. That is John Brugo. Where are you? I hope you are ready. Yes, we are going to have a presentation from him, and one also from Stanley. After which now we will break for lunch. And in the afternoon, His Excellency Mutahi Kahiga, Governor Nyeri County, will take us through a panel discussion, which will start with a presentation from FAO. FAO, you have your place. FAO will be taking us through the agriculture sector performance in the devolved system of government, and we are going to have a panel discussion in response to the presentation that will have been made here. So asante sana for your patience. Continue being patient. We are moving away from the speeches now to some presentations. Brugo, please, very quickly. That is the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, IGRTC. 2 short presentations, after which we break for lunch. Karibu sana.
Thank you, MC, Honorable Minister, Chair of Intergovernmental Forum on Agriculture, the co-chair, Dr. James Nyoro, Excellency Governors present, the CS devolution, CAS Agriculture, PS is present. The CEC is responsible for agriculture from the counties, Council of Governors, our development partners present, JASCOM Secretariat, Ministry officials, and all participants. I think it's an afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is John Brugu, and I'll make a small presentation on Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee and its relevance or role that it can play within this sector. As the previous speakers have intimated, they have alluded to the necessity, the core role of collaboration, consultation among the 2 levels of government. My presentation will be on that, and more importantly, how the 2 levels can enhance that collaboration, can enhance the consultation. I think the CS has mentioned that the 2 levels understand their roles, their functions, but there is a missing link. That link is how the intergovernmental relations comes in. I will, I think, proceed so that I think I better go down so that I can be able to look at the screen. Let's go. Or I present it from what I have. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 introduced a devolved system of government comprising of two levels of government, the national and county governments. The 2010 Constitution provides for a cooperative model of governance where the two levels are distinct and interdependent. This distinct nature provides for the equality in legislative and executive autonomy each level of government has in relation to their respective functions and powers as provided in the fourth schedule to the Constitution. Interdependence refers to the fact that the two levels of government are dependent on one another to protect the well-being of the people of the Republic. It also refers to the extent to which each level of government depends on the other for the successful implementation of their respective constitutional mandates. The 2010 Constitution calls for cooperative rather than competitive intergovernmental relations. The provisions therein are contained in Article 6.2, Article 174, 186, 187, and 189 of the Constitution of Kenya. In addition to the provisions of the Constitution, there are other enumbered legislations which pave way for cooperative intergovernmental relations. These include the County Government Act of 2012, the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and the Intergovernmental Relations Act 2012, among others. The Intergovernmental Relations Act 2012. This is a parent act that establishes several intergovernmental structures which are aimed at facilitating cooperation and consultation between the two levels of government and amongst county governments. Below are the intergovernmental structures established pursuant to the Intergovernmental Relations Act. The National and County Government Coordinating Summit, that is chaired by the President, where there are 47 governors, and this is the apex body of intergovernmental relations. The Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee established pursuant to Section 11 of the Act. The sectoral forums established pursuant to Section 13 and 20 of the Act. And this is where the Intergovernmental Forum on Agriculture falls, which can be convened by the Cabinet Secretary or the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee. Council of Governors established under Section 19. The joint committees and joint authorities established pursuant to Article 189(2), the Constitution of Kenya in Section 23 of Intergovernmental Relations Act. This is where JASCOM again falls. Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee. As I said, it is established under Section 11 and it has its functions. More importantly, it was established to give effect to Article 6 and 189 of the Constitution of Kenya. Its functions are well stipulated in Sections 12, 13, and 33 of the Act, and some of them are being the Secretariat of the Summit, and which calls for IGRTC to be responsible for the day-to-day administration of the Summit and the Council of Governors, and in particular facilitating the activities of the Summit and the Council, and implementing the decisions of the Summit and the Council. Residual functions of the de facto transitional authority, which includes preparation and validation of inventories of all existing assets and liabilities of government, other public entities and local authorities, and bundling and analysis of assigned functions, and closure and transfer of public records and information. I would want to mention that so far we have done that in regards to the de facto local authorities as well as the devolved functions, and the same reports are due for submission to the summit. Convening of the county secretaries, 47 county secretaries, 30 days prior to the summit. That is part of enriching the agenda of the summit. Establishment of intergovernmental sectoral forums, that is under Section 13(1). Undertaking dispute resolution by applying mechanisms of alternative dispute resolution in the resolution of intergovernmental disputes. The role of intergovernmental relations in public service delivery. Intergovernmental relations are critical for effective and effectiveness and efficiency in public service delivery by governments. Cooperative intergovernmental relations form an important component of any political system with more than one level of government. In consideration of the complementary roles that the two levels of government play in the implementation of their mandates, intergovernmental relations structures offer the platform for positive influencing public service delivery in terms of efficient, effective public service delivery, synergy in resources utilization, improved infrastructure, coordination in project implementation, capacity building, and monitoring and evaluation. In this regard, intergovernmental structures such as the Joint Agricultural Sector Steering Committee, JASCOM, play an integral part in providing a platform for the two levels of government to develop policies and laws, coordinating the implementation of projects, and resolve disputes that may arise within the sector. Intergovernmental sector forums such as JASCOM also offer flexibility in tackling challenges and gaps that often arise in the implementation of functions of the two levels of government. It is noteworthy that in the devolved system of government, relations between the two levels of government and among county governments are not amenable to regulation through rigid legalistic processes. The nature of the issues vis-a-vis the need for effective and efficient public service delivery demand for flexibility and adaptability to changing conditions and targets. Therefore, the role of sector forums in ensuring such flexibility, and I would dare to say innovativeness, while focusing on solutions cannot be understated. To promote and enhance intergovernmental relations for effective and efficient public service delivery, IGRTC has undertaken the following. One is facilitating the convening of the summit meetings, and their intergovernmental relations issues are canvassed at the Apex Intergovernmental Relations point. One of those areas, I know it is not relevant, but you are aware that we had COVID summits, extraordinary summits that were held during that COVID time. We have also had other summits that resolve disputes and address matters of national interest. So that is where IGRTC plays a key role, especially in the implementation of the resolutions coming from the summit through ministries, departments, and agencies, and also reports back the progress of that implementation of the summit resolutions. Analysis and clarification of the respective functions of the two levels of government, and to ensure that the two levels of government exercise their respective mandates in a complementary rather than competitive manner. IGRTC has developed reports in agriculture sector. We did, with the support of development partners, commission research, and in regard to the legal frameworks, functions, state corporations within this sector, and the regulations that facilitate or inhibit success of devolution. That report is ready and shall be shared with the Council of Governors before proceeding to the summit. Convening of intergovernmental sector forums, which provide the two levels of government an opportunity to share experiences in the dispensation of their respective mandates, while jointly tackling the emerging challenges in their sector. I take the opportunity to congratulate the Cabinet Secretary and the co-chair, Dr. Nyoro, His Excellency Dr. Nyoro, because we have seen vibrancy in this sector since the Cabinet Secretary came on board. I am saying that because the Act provides that we can convene, but we give precedence and priority to the Cabinet Secretary, who comes from the national government. Some of them do not support us, and that is why we have special mention for the Cabinet Secretary. We have had challenges especially in the water sector, where we the county secretary, CEC is responsible for water, come for their sector forums and the cabinet secretary is not available. We don't get the national government policy direction. It's very frustrating. And as it is indicated, you don't operate, achieve government strategy and policy objectives as an island. So we need to achieve something for land, for agriculture, but we need the water. So that collaboration, that availability is necessary. The Cabinet Secretary for Devolution in February 2020 gazetted 17 sector forums. So far, only 6 are active, up and running, and this is one of the trailblazers. So I congratulate you on that, and let us keep working together. Preparation and validation of inventory, as I had talked about, existing assets and liabilities, then dispute resolution. Sorry. The governance challenges in the agricultural sector. The governance challenges can largely be traced to the following issues: ambiguity and redundance of legislation. There are legislations that still need to be worked on so that they are in conformity with devolution. Existing institutional and legal infrastructure that violates Schedule 4 of the constitutional allocation of functions between the 2 levels of government. Slow operationalization of intergovernmental relations structures, which could have hastened the process of consultations between the national and county governments in resolving the issue of the transfer of county governments, agricultural functions still being implemented by national government state corporations. National government institutions performing county government roles means that an institutional realignment of the sector state corporations is necessary, and this is likely to result in either a reduction in the scope of some state corporations, a merger of state corporations performing dual roles or whose functions are best performed under one management body, dissolution of redundant state corporations, transfer of such a state corporation through intergovernmental agreement. Obviously, that would mean that it goes to the county level. Then perennial inadequacy of human and financial resources to enable effective implementation of devolved functions, as is the case of extension services. Majority of legislation enacted before August 2010 is yet to be amended or repealed to enable alignment with the post-2010 devolved governance system. The import of this is that such statutes do not recognize the presence of county governments. They assume in their operations, in their funding, that is why you feel governors complain that sometimes the national government inasikika inafanya kazi huko kwa county yao, and they are not aware. Because they assume that that is their role, yet that is a function that was transferred. Hence, state corporations established therein are implementing functions for which they were created at the time, but are now county government functions. Multiplicity of institutions in the agricultural sector results to duplication in their functional mandate, and this calls for realignment. This is a ministry that is reputed to have over 23 state corporations. Are they all optimally utilized? Can they be relooked at? Can they be realigned in their delivery? Then low public participation thresholds resulting in tokenism, placative and patronizing forums rather than constructive engagements. This is where the thresholds of public participation is wanting. When we go to take budgets, when we go to talk about project priorities, how do we engage with the citizenry? How do we give them the document, the bulky documents in time, the same day, and also what kind of language, communication, how do we engage with them? In conclusion, implementation of the warehouse receipt system recently launched by the Cabinet Secretary. Agriculture is expected to be a game changer. once it is effectively implemented by all stakeholders. It will afford farmers ease of access to farm inputs, storage, food returns as voucher is redeemable, access to credit, better food logistics from urban and to scarce areas, trading of vouchers in the secondary market, and progressive establishment of commodity exchange trading. Overall, it will help actualize one pillar of the Big Four agenda on agriculture and food security. With value addition, manufacturing pillar would also be realized. Establishment of effective structures such as JASCOM plays a key role in enhancement of intergovernmental relations. The administrative structure set out within JASCOM can be emulated by the other sector forums, as it is through these administrative structures that the agricultural sector has been able to employ joint implementation of projects and resolutions, as well as effective monitoring and evaluation. This continues to have an overall positive effect on public service delivery in the agricultural sector on a nationwide scale. IGRTC holds the view that intergovernmental relations forms a primary strategy that ensures efficiency and effectiveness in service delivery in the agriculture sector, and more so in food security. Thus, IGRTC rounds the efforts by the two levels of government, as portrayed through JASCOM, and encourages the agricultural sector to continue promoting the entrenchment of cooperative, inter- and intra-governmental relations. Thank you.
Asante sana John Brugo for that presentation on the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee. Take note of any issues that he may have raised that you may want to react to, because in the afternoon we are going to have a plenary session. And at this point in time, we are to have a presentation on the status update on the resolutions of the third Intergovernmental Forum on Agriculture, which the CS has ably reflected upon. So what is going to happen, we are going to get a printout of the resolutions so that you don't have to have that presentation, because the CS has done a very good job just taking us back there. So you get that presentation. So we are going to break for lunch, and after lunch, when we come back, we get a presentation on the agriculture sector performance in the devolved system of governance. And Chele, I hope you're here. FAO, yes, FAO will be making that presentation. Then we are going to have a panel discussion in response to that presentation, and a plenary will follow. So we are breaking for lunch now. Let's come back by 1:30. Your Excellency, Honorable, Your Excellency Mutahi Kahiga, you'll be taking over the afternoon session. And lunch will be taken at the main dining hall near the swimming pool. As you come out, there is a restaurant on your right. And then the CS, Excellency Governors, CAS, and the PSS, you'll be joining the governors and the cabinet secretary for your lunch near the cafe near the reception. You have your you have your lunch there. Yes, please. Yeah. Yeah.
We have excellency governors because they are the ones who know what has happened on that performance. So a lot of these people may be there. But let's have Haemba, let's have the three governors.
In fact, these people are not here. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can announce that.
Okay. I'm being guided by the co-chair IGIFA. In the afternoon session for the panel discussion, we are going to have, of course, Moses is here. ASNET is represented. We don't have, the two MPs are not here. So in place of the MPs, we are going to have two Excellency Governors. His Excellency Haemba, and I'm going to request, I think there is only one more governor, another governor who is there. We are going to humbly request you to maybe step in. Yes, yes. Your Excellency, if you don't mind. Then we have the farmer, a representative of the farmer. But of course, a lot of it, a lot of the reactions will come during the plenary session. So I want to request somebody to, you want to say something?
Just that as they leave, can there be a VIPs come for a photo session. And
Yeah.
immediately-
We are going to have a photo session outside the hotel. So we'll move to the front of the hotel, take a quick group photo, and then we proceed for lunch. The CS, I believe, Thule, you're going to guide them. The rest of us will go to the restaurant near the swimming pool on your right. So any volunteer to pray for lunch? Any volunteer, please? Anybody? Yeah, me? Okay, let's bow our heads and pray. Almighty God and Father, we come before you this afternoon. We want to thank you for a very constructive session this morning. Lord, we are departing for lunch. How we pray that, Lord, you are going to bless it as we take it. In Jesus' name I do pray and believe. Amen. So we go for a group photo, then proceed for lunch, please.
And for people to be back by 1:45.
Yeah. 1:45, let's all be back here.